So hi all, welcome to this video session. In this session we will see what is the difference between isFiltered versus IsInscope function in Dax. Both of these functions, they are key context functions. So what is isFiltered function? It checks if a column is being filtered or not. It returns true value if there's any filter on the column, and we need to make sure that it's a direct filter. It works for slicers, filters and visuals, and it evaluates filter context only. This is the basic syntax, is filtered, and then we mention the column name. Okay. This is one example. It is if is filtered sales of region, we can mark it as filtered or not filtered. So if some kind of filtration is being done via some slicer or via some visual, okay, it will return it as filter. IsInscope, it checks if a column is currently in scope, typically in a visual hierarchy. Okay, so it returns true if the column is present in the current row context of a visual. So, and this is the basic syntax, that is IsInscope of column name. Okay, and this is the way how we can use IsInscope, that IsInscope date of year in scope, not in scope. So if the year is within the hierarchy of the date, right, it will return in scope. So when should we use, okay, is filtered, and when should we use IsInscope? So we should use isFiltered when you want to detect filters applied by a slicer or a filter pane. And we should use IsInscope when you are building calculations that behave differently at different hierarchy level. Okay. This is basically the summary. Both functions help in creating intelligent and dynamic measures, and we should understand, okay, how we should choose the right function, whether you are checking filters or whether you are using hierarchical scopes. Okay, so let us move to Power BI and let us see how we can actually detect, okay, how we can actually verify whether which function to use basically and when. Okay, so here if you just see, I have created this, this is a table, that is the oil amount data table, and in this table I have already created this hierarchy named fiscal. Okay, within the fiscal we have the year and the month hierarchy. Okay, and this is basically your two measures that I have created. Okay, that is measure isFilter, which is isFiltered oil amount data on month. Okay, so it is filtering on the basis of month. And IsInscope is, again, it is it will find out whether the month is within the hierarchical scope or not. Okay, so now what we are going to do, that in this particular matrix we can see that it is year on the basis of sum of quantities. If I drill it down, okay, you will see that for all the months within this particular year, it has already filtered on the basis of month, and it has given us the sum of quantities here. Okay, so now what we have to do, we need to find out like what is the behavior, when should we use isFiltered and when should we use IsInscope. Okay, so for that let me add one slicer. And this should be a year slicer. Okay, so let me add the year, and let me select the slicer setting as vertical list. Okay, so this is done, and let me select another slicer, and this slicer will contain month. Okay, yeah, so let us see for one particular year, let us see for 2020, year 2020 only. Okay, for the year 2020, right, what we can do, this measure isFilter, let me drag and drop it here, and the measure IsInscope also, let me drag and drop it here. If you see measure isFiltered, right, if I go ahead and if I select any one filter on any of these months, right, you can see that right now when I have not applied any filter, both the measure isFiltered and measure IsInscope is working the same. Okay, it is working as expected. That means in 2020 there is actually no because I have applied for both the measures, I have applied filtering conditions on the month, right? So therefore on the year it is showing me false, right? It is not filtered on the basis of the year, that's why it's showing false, but on the basis of month it is getting filtered, that's why it is showing here true. But measure IsInscope over here, right, it's also showing false here because the month is not in scope of the year right now. if you can just see, that's why it's showing false here. So everything is fine. Okay, if I go ahead and let's say that I go ahead and I select one of the months here, right, you see what will happen. You see the measure is filtered for the year 2020, it is giving me true value, but measure is in scope, it is giving me false value here. Okay, so in this case the measure is filtered is not giving me the correct result. Okay, but the measure is in scope is actually giving me the correct result, because the measure is in scope is on the month basis. Okay, I've applied is in scope on the month basis, so I have to check whether the month is in scope or not. So if I do a filtering on the month, only month should return true, but for the year it should return false. So this measure is in scope is working properly, but measure is filtered is not working properly. And this is the basic difference between measure is filtered and measure is in scope. This is the place where we should be using measure is in scope and not measure is filtered. Okay, so generally when there is a hierarchy, okay, like this hierarchy I have placed it in this particular matrix, generally where there is some kind of hierarchy, so we should prefer to use measure is in scope instead of measure is filtered. Measure is filtered is generally used to only verify whether the filter has been applied or not, that's it. Okay, but in case if let's say if we want to showcase we want to only display the year, display the sum of quantities for the months only and not for the year, in that case we can definitely use measure is in scope, that will perform much better than measure is filtered. Okay, so if I go ahead and let's say if I create a measure, okay, and in this measure I will say measure is in scope, okay, and then it will be amount, let's say not amount but quantity. Okay, let's say, and what I will do, I will calculate the sum of the quantity. Okay, and obviously if and what I will do is, if not is in scope, okay, and here I will place the month. Okay, if not is in scope, then give me this value. Okay, else give me the blank value. Okay, if I go ahead, if I hit on apply, and now if I go ahead and this measure is in scope, I go ahead and drag and drop here. If it's in scope, yeah, if this is in scope, then yeah, so it is showing me the values for the months, as you can see. Okay, and for this particular for the total, it is not showing me value. So if you want to display it something like this, that only for the only where the value is true, right, I have to see the value, the quantity, then you can do it like this. You can use measure is in scope. Obviously if I go ahead and if I select August, you see the value will display, but you see here in this case, if we use measure is filtered, right, if I go ahead and if I use measure is filtered, let's say measure is filtered, right, it will give me, you see, all the values it will display, which is not correct, right, it will give me all the values. Okay, so this is the basic difference between measure is in scope and measure is filtered. If you really enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel, and please don't forget to press the bell icon for notification. Thank you.